Now that the NBA Finals is over, you start to enter what I call the silly season of professional sports, the off season. And certainly the NBA will fall into this category, perhaps more so in this off season than it has for several years. The primary storyline is going to be what happens with the Miami Heat. What do LeBron James and Chris Bosh and Dwyane Wade decide? Are the Miami Heat going to stay intact? Are they going to be blown up? Are pieces of them going to stay there and other pieces go? This is going to be the predominant storyline that carries out and plays out over the next couple of weeks, and if not the next couple of months. And one of the things that really falls into the stupid season, the silly season, category of this for this NBA offseason is the rumor that I saw recently about there being mutual interest perhaps with Carmelo Anthony wanting to come to the Miami Heat and the Miami Heat wanting to bring in Carmelo Anthony. So the big three would become the big four. How stupid and ridiculous this would truly be. You saw the weaknesses and the flaws of the Miami Heat when they faced the Spurs in this past NBA Finals series. You're talking about a team that really only had 5 players that did anything at all. That was LeBron, Bosh, Wade, Rashard Lewis, and Ray Allen. 5 players. And of those 5, 2 of them in Wade and Bosh were not contributing at a level, at a quality of play that you would expect, that you would need, that you would command to demand from them with the way the Miami Heat were constructed. They needed those big 3, so to speak, to play really, really big. And you had one that kind of played big at moments, but not consistently and not always at the right times in LeBron James. You had a Dwyane Wade that was still aggressive, but instead of being flash, he was more of a flicker. And then you had Chris Bosh, who for some reason over the past few years, in some idiotic fashion, has decided instead of being a post player, he wants to be a skinny fat version of a younger Sam Perkins, just sitting out there and parking his ass at the three-point line. I don't get it. And then you're counting on guys like Rashard Lewis and Ray Allen, guys who have seen their better days, guys who are role players at best at this stage of their careers, expecting them to, carry a much bigger load than they should be required to, and you're getting absolutely nothing else out of your entire roster, and you expect to win an NBA championship. Well, it shouldn't have been a surprise that they got dismantled so easily and dominated as well as they did by the San Antonio Spurs. When you look at the weaknesses of the Heat, it's not just the decline of the Wades and the Boshes of the world. It's not just the fact that they have, very limited help outside of that big 3 and you're not getting as much out of the big 3. It's their poor three-point shooting as a team, their lack of three-point shooters overall, their lack of guys that can create their own shot off the dribble. It's the lack of post players and the lack of quality post defenders, post rebounders, and post scorers. And I guess my question is, how in the fuck does Carmelo Anthony make that team better? How in the bluest of blue fucks does Carmelo Anthony make the Miami Heat the team to beat in the 2014-2015 season if you bring him in and team up with LeBron and Wade and Bosh? The simple answer is he doesn't. Carmelo Anthony, just like the other 3 guys, is a player that seems young in theory, but we have to remember has been in the league since 2003. You're talking about a guy that's about 30 years old and has a lot of mileage, a lot of wear and tear on his body. And as a result, his decline is going to come a lot more rapidly and a lot quicker than you might envision. Here is also a Carmelo Anthony who will contribute absolutely nothing on the defensive end of the floor, whether it be as a post defender, God forbid, or as a perimeter defender. And when you saw the Miami Heat's inability to defend well in the post and also to defend against the Spurs' superior ability to create penetration off of the dribble drive and create easy shots and opportunities for themselves and others on the perimeter, how is Carmelo Anthony going to help in that aspect? How is Carmelo Anthony going to help in terms of your overall depth? You would have to tie up so much money into him and LeBron and Wade and Bosh to keep this big 4 together, to bring this big 4 together, that you really wouldn't be able to have a roster around him. You wouldn't really be able to have any depth. You already lost Shane Battier to retirement, not a huge loss, but he is gone. Ray Allen may very well retire. Rashard Lewis going to come back? Maybe, maybe not. And if so, you're probably going to get less and less out of him over the years. Where is the young talent at? Where is the young depth at? And where is that young talent and depth going to come from a Miami Heat team that is devoid of draft picks and would have so much money tied up into these four guys that they would struggle to find anybody to come in other than at a mid-level exception or at the veteran minimum? And newsflash, not everybody is going to want to do that, even with the visions and delusions of grandeur of potentially winning an NBA championship. Again, you were talking about a Carmelo Anthony, too. That is a very one-dimensional offensive player, a guy that has to dominate the ball, which is the worst thing that the Miami Heat can have. He is not the type of guy that would take some creating responsibilities away from LeBron James. He's not the type of guy that is going to help facilitate the offense. Carmelo Anthony is going to help facilitate Carmelo Anthony's offense and damn everyone and damn everything else. So what you're going to have is another one-on-one type of player similar to what you have in a Wade or a Bosh or to a certain degree even a LeBron at this point in time. You're adding another one of those type of guys who's not going to help you on the defensive end of the floor, who's going to hinder your ability to acquire the young depth and talent that you need, is not going to bring that much of an upgrade in terms of three-point shooting, because you might say, well, Anthony's a better three-point shooter than Dwyane Wade, but you also potentially lose both Ray Allen and Rashard Lewis in part because of you bringing in a Carmelo Anthony. So he really doesn't upgrade your team there, and he certainly sure as hell doesn't upgrade your post offense, your post defense, and your perimeter defense for damn sure. This is one of these examples to me of it sounds great in theory. If you were playing 2K14, you were in a freaking dynasty mode, you'd make some bullshit trade, some Madden-type trade to bring in a Carmelo Anthony, and then you'd reign and win like 6 or 8 championships with these 4 fucking guys. But sometimes these things are better in fantasy. They sound better on paper. And I understand that the NBA is a star power league and that it is a star-driven league, and you have to have star power in order to win the NBA championship to a certain degree. That is 100% true. But there is also something to be said about having a team and having too much individualism, having too much star power on one team. And it is also, to me, about chemistry and how those pieces fit around each other. And to me, Carmelo Anthony, both offensively and defensively, would be an atrocious, terrible fit for the Miami Heat, to the point where if they actually did do this ding-dong dumb-dick move to actually bring in Carmelo Anthony and line him up and join forces with LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, you're actually going to see the Miami Heat regress as a team overall, because they still haven't addressed their lack of three-point shooting. They still haven't addressed their lack of post presence, both on the offensive and defensive side of the floor. And in particular, because of bringing him in again, it would limit and constrict what they would be able to do in terms of adding some depth, and in particular some young depth, guys that could create their shots off the dribble, three-point shooters, all of that. You wouldn't be able to bring any of that in. So if anything, bringing in Carmelo Anthony would lead the team to regress, with Wade and Bosh and LeBron all getting a year older, and in particular Wade in a serious decline and Bosh starting to decline as well, and LeBron James possibly only having a couple more years at his high level of play as the best player in the league. I think the Miami Heat might not even make the NBA Finals next year if they brought in a Carmelo Anthony, because it would gum up the works, it would mess everything up, and it would become one huge conglomeration of a clusterfuck. Now, if you're out there and you're like me and you think this is stupid and you think this is ridiculous, please let me know why in the comments. If you are living in a fantasy world and you think this sounds great and you think this could really work and you think Carmelo Anthony is the answer for the Miami Heat to help them win the NBA championship next year, oh God, please entertain me and let me know down below. Like I said, we're in the silly season of the NBA, and I think this is one of the silliest things I've heard in a long time. Carmelo Anthony to the Heat is stupid, period.